Executives poured wine on black man at Gala. Didn't know he owns their $800 million partner company. They say power wears many faces, but none more dangerous than the one people underestimate. In ballrooms lit by crystal chandeliers and champagne flutes, where billion-dollar decisions are made with smiles and silk handshakes, the wrong assumption can quietly destroy empires. Tonight's story exposes exactly how arrogance, racism, and careless pride collided in one glittering gala. And how a man everyone dismissed ended up holding the keys to an entire corporate kingdom. This is not just a story about money. It's about respect. It's about the silent power behind the loudest rooms. It's about how a single humiliating moment, fueled by ignorance, triggered a chain of events that wiped out careers, collapsed boardrooms, and rewrote ownership structures overnight. Our story centers on a black man who arrived quietly, dressed simply, and said very little. Yet secretly owned the $800 million partner company that three powerful executives depended on for their very survival. None of them knew. None of them asked. And all of them would regret it. What started as careless laughter became a corporate disaster. What began as spilled wine became spilled secrets. And what was meant to be a night of celebration became a turning point that would haunt boardrooms across 3 countries. So sit back. Listen closely. And prepare for a story that proves real power doesn't announce itself, it waits. Now let's step inside the gala where everything went terribly wrong. The Grand Halcyon Hotel shimmered beneath a velvet night sky, its towering glass walls glowing gold against the city skyline. Inside, violin strings floated through the air, blending with soft laughter, clinking glasses, and the hushed confidence of people who controlled more money than entire nations. The annual Crestline Global Investment Gala was where alliances were forged, fortunes were announced, and reputations were quietly dismantled. Executives moved like royalty, tailored suits brushing marble floors. Servers glided between tables carrying silver trays stacked with crystal wineglasses, each pour costing more than some people's monthly rent. Cameras flashed near the stage, capturing handshakes and smiles between CEOs who would be making billion-dollar decisions before sunrise. Near the back of the ballroom, standing beside a massive pillar carved with gold leaf, was a man no one recognized. His name was Marcus Ellison. He wore a charcoal suit, well-fitted but modest, no flashy cufflinks, no diamond watch, no entourage. His shoes were polished, but plain. He stood quietly, hands folded in front of him, calmly observing the room as though he had all the time in the world. In reality, he owned most of it. Marcus was the majority shareholder of Halcyon Dynamics, an $800 million logistics and manufacturing powerhouse that Crestline Global depended on for shipping, production, and overseas licensing. Without Halcyon, Crestline's newest tech rollout, their biggest expansion in company history, would collapse. But Marcus had chosen not to announce himself. Tonight wasn't about celebration for him. It was about evaluation. He had recently purchased controlling interest in Halcyon quietly, using holding firms and offshore acquisitions. Very few people knew his name yet. Fewer still knew that he had the authority to freeze Crestline's operations with a single signature. He was here to see who he was really partnering with. Across the ballroom, 3 executives dominated the center table. Gavin Ross, Crestline's arrogant CFO. Elaine Mercer, their Chief Operations Officer. And Robert Hale, the loud, silver-haired VP of Corporate Strategy. They were already several glasses into the evening. Their laughter carried farther than it should have. Their table sparkled with oversized crystal goblets and expensive cigars, their voices soaked in entitlement. Gavin leaned back, swirling red wine lazily. "Look at this place," he said smugly. "Power everywhere." Robert chuckled. "And yet we still get random nobodies sneaking in." Elaine tilted her head, scanning the room, her eyes landing on Marcus standing quietly near the pillar. "Who is that?" she muttered. "He looks like he wandered in from valet." Gavin squinted. Probably someone's driver or assistant. Robert smirked. Someone should remind him he's at the wrong table. They laughed. A server approached their table to refill glasses, and Gavin waved him closer. "Hey," Gavin said, nodding toward Marcus. "Why don't you bring that guy here? Let's welcome him." The server hesitated, then reluctantly walked over to Marcus and gestured politely. "Sir, they'd like you at their table." Marcus smiled calmly and followed. As he approached, conversations nearby began to quiet. Something about his presence was steady, controlled, like a storm waiting behind clear skies. Gavin stood, offering a fake smile. "Well, hello there," he said, raising his glass. "Did you get lost?" Marcus returned a polite nod. "Just attending the gala." Elaine leaned forward. "And you are?" "Marcus," he said simply. Robert chuckled loudly. "Marcus what?" "Ellison." They exchanged glances. "Never heard of him." Gavin smirked. "So Marcus, which company are you with?" Marcus paused for half a second. "I'm observing." That was all. Robert burst out laughing. "Observing? This isn't a museum." Elaine rolled her eyes. "Did you sneak in?" Marcus's voice remained calm. "No." Gavin lifted his wineglass dramatically. "Well, cheers to the observers of the world." He tilted his glass toward Marcus, then, accidentally, tipped it. Red wine poured down Marcus's jacket, soaking into the fabric, dripping onto the marble floor. The table erupted in laughter. "Oh my God," Elaine gasped sarcastically. "How clumsy." Robert leaned forward, grinning. "Oops." Marcus looked down at his stained suit, then slowly back up at them. He did not raise his voice. He did not shout. He simply asked, "Was that intentional?" Gavin shrugged. "Relax, man. It's just wine." Several nearby guests watched uncomfortably. A few servers froze. Marcus reached into his pocket, removed a handkerchief, and calmly wiped his lapel. "Thank you for clarifying," he said softly. Then he turned, and walked away. They laughed harder. "Did you see his face?" Robert snorted. "Probably his only good suit." Elaine shook her head. "These people get too comfortable in places they don't belong." None of them noticed Marcus walking straight toward the private elevator reserved for board members and owners. Inside, he made one quiet phone call. "Freeze Crestline's outbound manufacturing shipments effective immediately," he said calmly. "And pull the preliminary merger documents. I'll be reviewing everything personally." There was a pause on the other end. Then, "Yes, Mr. Ellison." Marcus looked at his reflection in the elevator mirror, wine stain still faintly visible. "They'll know my name soon," he said quietly. The elevator doors closed. And above the ballroom, far from laughter and clinking glasses, the first domino quietly tipped. Because by morning, Crestline Global would wake up to an email that would send their stock into free fall, and 3 executives into panic. But they had no idea yet. They were still laughing. And they were about to lose everything. By sunrise, Crestline Global's internal messaging system was already collapsing under panic. Phones rang across 3 continents as executives woke to emergency notifications stamped with red priority flags. Manufacturing hubs in Singapore, Poland, and Mexico reported full operational freezes. Logistics partners sent formal suspension notices. Warehouse supervisors stood in silence beside idle conveyor belts. Millions of dollars in inventory sat locked behind software permissions that had suddenly vanished. At 7:04 a.m. Gavin Ross spilled coffee across his desk when the subject line arrived. Halcyon Dynamics, Contractual Restructure Notice. He clicked it twice before the words fully registered. The message was short, brutal, and final. All Crestline manufacturing support, licensing privileges, and shipping authorizations were suspended pending executive-level review by majority shareholder Marcus Ellison. Gavin reread the name. His stomach dropped. Elaine Mercer was already dialing him. "Gavin," she whispered urgently, "do you know who Marcus Ellison is?" He didn't answer. Robert Hale burst into the executive floor moments later, face pale, tie crooked. "We're shut down," he said hoarsely. "Europe's frozen. Asia's frozen. Our entire tech rollout is dead." Gavin finally spoke. "Marcus Ellison." Silence filled the room. Elaine slowly sat down. "That was the man last night." Robert swallowed. "The one with the wine." Within hours, Crestline stock slid downward like a collapsing bridge. Analysts flooded business networks with speculation. Insider forums whispered about breach of partnership disasters. Journalists hunted anonymous leaks. A headline crossed international markets before noon. Mystery investor freezes $800 million partner, Crestline shares fall 18%. By noon, the board demanded answers. By 2, they demanded blood. By 4, they demanded a meeting with Marcus Ellison. Marcus, meanwhile, sat calmly in a private lounge overlooking the harbor, reviewing digital documents on a tablet. His assistant approached carefully. "They've requested an emergency audience," she said. Marcus nodded once. "Schedule it for 7. At 7 sharp, Crestline's executives were ushered into Halcyon's top-floor boardroom. No photographers. No press. Only polished oak walls, a panoramic city view, and one man seated at the far end of a massive glass table. Marcus stood as they entered. Gavin attempted a smile that collapsed halfway. "Mr. Ellison," he said quickly, "we." Marcus raised a hand. "Sit." They obeyed. He did not raise his voice. He did not smile. He simply slid 3 folders across the table. "These are recorded witness statements from last night," he said evenly. "Security footage. Server logs. Audio transcripts. And a formal documentation of contractual behavior violations." Elaine's fingers trembled as she opened her folder. Robert stared at his. Gavin felt sick. "You publicly humiliated a partner," Marcus continued. "You created a hostile professional environment. You violated our dignity clauses, reputation safeguards, and mutual conduct obligations." Robert stammered, "We didn't know who you were." Marcus tilted his head. "And that made it acceptable." Silence. "You assumed I was less than you," Marcus said. "Because I stood quietly. Because I did not announce my wealth. Because my skin did not match your expectations." No one spoke. "I acquired Halcyon Dynamics to build equitable global partnerships," he continued. "Not to empower arrogance." Gavin leaned forward desperately. "We can apologize. We can issue statements. We can." Marcus raised his hand again. "You can restructure." They stared. "Effective immediately," Marcus said, sliding another document forward, "Halcyon will retain 41% ownership of Crestline's new technology branch. Executive compensation packages will be reduced. Diversity governance oversight will be implemented. And your board will expand with independent compliance directors." Elaine whispered, "That's controlling interest." "Yes," Marcus said. "And that is the cost of disrespect." Robert's voice cracked. "If we don't agree." Marcus looked out the window at the city lights. "Then Crestline dissolves within 8 months." He turned back to them. "You require Halcyon. Halcyon does not require you." They signed. That night, Crestline's leadership was quietly dismantled and rebuilt under new governance. Several senior advisors resigned. Compensation disclosures were rewritten. A formal public apology statement was drafted, reviewed, rejected, rewritten, and finally approved by Marcus personally. The next morning, the media exploded. Black investor takes control after Gala incident. Boardroom humiliation costs executives millions. Mystery CEO reveals himself. Marcus Ellison's name flooded business channels. His face appeared on screens. His calm voice filled interviews. "I am not here to punish," he said on live broadcast. "I am here to correct." The Gala incident became a case study. MBA programs discussed it. Corporate ethics seminars referenced it. Diversity councils cited it. Crestline's 3 executives quietly disappeared from public spotlight. Gavin resigned within 3 weeks. Elaine was reassigned to compliance consulting. Robert accepted a silent retirement package. And Marcus continued to expand Halcyon. Months later, at another international summit, a young executive approached Marcus cautiously. "Sir," he said, "everyone knows your story." Marcus smiled gently. "Then they know to look twice." The man nodded respectfully and stepped away. Marcus turned toward the balcony, watching lights ripple across the harbor. Power, he knew, did not need to announce itself. It only needed to stand when tested. And sometimes, all it took to change an empire was one quiet man, and one careless glass of wine.